Lesson 6.4, Integer Review. There are a few ways to approach integers, specifically adding integers. We have models and we have rules. This is just a brief review of all of the integer operations. We can add integers using models. We choose one of the models, either colored chips, pluses and minuses, or the number line, and then we use the models to combine the integers being added. We determine the answer for the addition. So if we wanted to add 5 and -8 using the models, first we'll start with colored chips. We have 5 positive chips and 8 negative chips, blue representing positive and 8 representing negative. Each positive and negative will cancel each other out. So we cancel one positive and one negative across the board, and we have 3 negatives left. If we use the pluses and minuses model, we have 5 pluses and 8 minuses. 1 plus and 1 minus will cancel each other out. So we'll go through and cancel, and we have 3 negatives left, or 3 minuses left. If we use the number line, we start at our positive 5, so we move to 5, and then we move in the opposite direction, the negative direction, for 8. So we move 8 spaces in the negative direction. Oops, sorry about that. And we land on -3. Each method results in the same answer. 5 plus -8 equals -3. There is also a rule for adding integers. If the signs of the numbers are the same, you add the numbers and you keep the same sign. 8 plus 9 is 17. -7 and -11 is -18. In each instance, we added the numbers and kept the sign the same. If the signs are different, we subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the bigger number. Now, I say bigger, I don't mean greater. Greater is a negative and a positive. A positive will always be greater. But if I'm talking about +2 and -18, I'm saying 18 is bigger than 2. So if I have -8 plus 10, I've subtracted. 10 was the bigger number, so my answer is +2. If I have 11 plus -15, 15 was bigger, so my answer is -4. If we think of adding integers as money we owe versus money we have, the money we owe is negative and the money we have is positive. So if I owe $10, that would be a -10. If I borrow another $15, that's -15. I now owe $25, which gives me a total of -25. Subtraction is the opposite of addition. It's the removal of something. And the key word in that sentence is opposite. When we're subtracting, we perform the opposite operation. So we add the opposite. So just the steps to subtract integers are to convert the subtraction to addition and then follow the rules for addition. So 9 minus 5 is actually the same thing as 9 plus -5, which would give us a 4. Now in this instance, because we were subtracting the way we're used to, 9 minus 5, that one was pretty straightforward. Here's some more examples. We have 5 minus 15, -3 minus 12, 6 minus -2, and -8 minus -3. Now I do have a trick or technique for remembering what happens when we subtract a negative. And that trick is, if I convert this to a smiley, you can see it looks like a happy person, and happy is positive. Whenever you have a double negative, it actually becomes a positive. So if you make a smile, that'll remind you this is positive. So when I have 5 minus 15, remember we want to convert the subtraction to addition. So 5 minus 15 is the same as saying 5 plus -15. Then we follow the rules for addition. So since I have opposite signs, I'll subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So 15 minus 5 is 10, and since the 15 was negative, the 10 is negative. So 5 minus 15 is the same as 5 plus -15, which is -10. Negative 3 minus 12 is the same as negative 3 plus negative 12. So our signs are the same, so we'll add the numbers together and keep the same sign, giving me a negative 15. 6 minus negative 2, again, he's happy. And happy is positive, so a plus. So 6 plus 2 is 8. And then negative 8 minus negative 3, he's happy. So that's negative 8 plus 3, which gives me a negative 5. Okay, with multiplication, multiplication is repeated addition. So 2 times 3 is the same thing as either 2 plus 2 plus 2 or 3 plus 3. It's either 3 2s or 2 3s. So that gives us 6. The rules for multiplication, when we're talking about multiplying and dividing, we have some rules for that as well when we're dealing with integers. If the signs are the same, you multiply the numbers and the answer will be positive. 5 times 8 is 40. Those are both positive, so the answer is positive. Negative 8 times negative 3, they're both negative, so my answer is positive. If the signs are different, we multiply the numbers and the answer is negative. So 5 times negative 8 is negative 40. Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. Now, with addition and subtraction, the sign of the larger integer determined the sign of your answer, but in this case, it doesn't matter. If you have the same sign, your answer is positive, and if you have different signs, your answer is negative. So we have that here. Again, it doesn't matter which one's bigger, just whether the signs match or not. And a good way to remember that is to think of it as a matching game. And you guys have all probably played the game when you were younger where you had the little cards and you had to find the matches. Well, if the signs match, you won, and that's positive. But if the signs don't match, you've lost, and that's negative. So here are some examples. I have 5 times negative 12. My signs do not match, so I multiply 5 times 12, and since they don't match, my answer is negative. I have negative 6 times negative 8. My signs match, so my answer is going to be positive 48. I have 3 times 15. They're both positive, so my answer will be positive 45. Negative 2 times 10. I have non-matching signs, so that gives me a negative answer, negative 20. If you're multiplying more than 2 numbers, rather than trying to keep track as you're moving along the whole problem and figuring out whether your answer is going to be positive or negative, there's a trick that you can use for this as well. You count up the number of negatives. If there are an even number of negatives, your answer will be positive because every 2 negatives will cancel each other out and make a positive. If you have an odd number of negatives, the answer will be negative because you'll have a bunch of 2's that cancel each other out and make positives, and then you'll have 1 negative left over at the end, which will make the whole thing negative. So for example, if I look at this problem, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. So my answer will be positive 720. And what I did is I counted up the 4 negatives. I knew it would be positive, and then I just went 3 times 5 times 2 times 2 times 4 times 3, and I didn't worry about the signs anymore. Here I have 1, 2, 3 negatives. So I have a negative 960 because the 3 negatives were odd, so my answer was negative. Division is the opposite operation of multiplication, and therefore the same rules will apply. The rules for the division are the same as the rules for multiplication. If the signs are the same, we divide the numbers, and the answer is positive. So a negative 36 and a negative 6, they're 2 negatives, so my answer is positive 6. 45 and 9, they're both positive, so my answer is positive 5. If the signs are different, divide the numbers and the answer is negative. Negative 21 divided by positive 7. I have a negative and a positive, so I get a negative answer, negative 3. 18 divided by negative 2. Positive and negative give me a negative answer, negative 9. It doesn't matter which number is bigger. All that matters is if the signs match or not. So the same with multiplication. You can think of it as a matching game again. If the signs match, you win, therefore it's positive. If the signs don't match, you lose, therefore it's negative. And here are some examples. I have 63 divided by negative 9. That will give me a negative 7 because I had a positive divided by a negative. I have positive 24 divided by positive 6. That will give me a 4, positive. Negative 27 divided by negative 3, two negatives, same sign, so we get a positive 9. Negative 48 divided by positive 8 gives me a negative 6.